All right. Thank you for your time and joining here. We're going to talk about mentorship and sponsorship today. I think all of us, without even knowing, are part of that being mentees from the moment we're born, and then our parents are mentors that we do not give much credit to. And then we get into professional lives, but we don't realize the need for mentorship for a long time. And when we do, and when we meet the right mentors, it really creates a big difference in life. I have had a mentor, I do have a mentor, and I can see how she creates a big impact in my life. So today, we have Anita and Jillian. We're going to talk more about mentorship, sponsorship, coaching, and through their experience, we would learn how it can impact your life if it already doesn't, or what else can it bring to your life. All right, I should have introduced myself first, right? So I'm Ashish Yadav. I'm Head of Technical Product Marketing and Partnership Alliances for Software Frameworks at Capgemini. And personally, I'm a mom. I'm 13 years old, and I live in San Jose, California. Over to you, Anita.
Thank you, Ashish. Anita Döhler, CEO of the NGMN Alliance. NGMN stands for Next Generation Mobile Networks. I spent almost all my business life in telecommunication, and specifically in the mobile telecommunication industry. And yes, I'm looking forward to a very interesting panel with you too.
My name is Jillian Kaplan, and I am Global Head of Telecom Thought Leadership at Dell Technologies. And I'm very excited to be here. I had the opportunity to participate in a keynote yesterday and another panel. But to me, having these conversations around upskilling and mentorship and sponsorship are incredibly important as we move the industry forward and continue as the technology changes, our skills and our background needs to change as well. I've been in telecommunications for almost 20 years now, and it's just very exciting to see the change we're going through now and what that's going to mean for all of us in our careers.
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you, Anita. So, mentorship means different things to different people. Let's hear, what does it mean to our panelists? Jillian? Anita, let's start with you.
Mentorship a mentor is someone who shares the experience, skills, and knowledge. And a sponsor would be someone who actively promotes a career, who enables access to the relevant network. So there are different roles, but I personally believe that quite often they can be combined in one person actually. And coaching is something different, but we will probably tackle that later.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita. Jillian.
To me, mentorship is really a lot about inspiration and about someone that can assist you in figuring out where you need to go, how to get there, because a lot of times we're like, I want this job, but the path to get there isn't always straight, right? There's jigs and jags, and you got to figure out how to get there. So they're there to inspire you. They're there to, be a sounding board. They're there to be real with you, right? If you're being unrealistic in your expectations or you're not doing the work to get there, they're not someone that does the work for you. They're someone that figures out how you can do the work to get where you want to be. And on top of the, kind of tough love that I think mentors should give, they're also, like I said, there to really inspire you to get to what you're looking for.
So continuing to that, Jillian, did you have a mentor during your career journey? Going back to you.
Yeah, I will say in the very beginning of my career, I did not. And I didn't understand how to get one. And it wasn't really talked about a lot, and I struggled a lot. So I worked for a mobile operator for over 14 years before coming to Dell Technologies. And I feel as though my career was actually pretty stagnant because I didn't have that mentor. I didn't have that person telling me, like, these are the things that you need to do to get where you want to be. And I never, ever advocated for myself. I think hopefully if I had a good mentor, they would have encouraged me to do that as well. So I struggled a lot. And when I came to Dell, mentorship was talked about a lot more. And it was something that, I raised my hand every time we talked about mentorship programs, like, hey, I think I need a mentor, and I probably drove my boss at the time crazy, but I was able to find people that were willing to mentor me and work with me. And for me, it hasn't been one person since I started my mentor journey. It's been multiple people, both internally and externally, which I think is incredibly important to have someone sort of that understands and knows how to navigate maybe the corporation you work for, but also someone who's a little more of a neutral voice, right? So having that balance has really been key for me. So if you're someone that doesn't have a mentor today and thinks, well, I've never had one, I'm never gonna have one, you can look at me and know that that's not true. Like, just because you don't have one today doesn't mean you can't start. It can really make a huge impact in your career.
Thank you, Jillian. Let's go to the other facet of it. So Anita, have you ever been a mentor to someone? Can you please share your experience?
Yeah, I've been a mentor in one of the companies I used to work for. There was a formal program matching or providing the opportunities to volunteer as a mentor, and then for it was a female network, so for females to apply to become a mentee, and then the mentee was selecting the mentor. With regards to what does function, what does work and what does not really work, in my personal opinion and experience. So I believe that first of all it is important that the mentor and the mentee also have some touch points during the day-to-day work. So somehow I think, of course, it can also work with advice from someone who is in a completely different area and maybe even working completely remotely. But I believe that the real value is to have someone who can also assess your personal work environment and your situation a bit better, being a mentor. I also experienced, because in my role as a business coach, that some companies believe that it works if there is a default matching by the company between the mentor and the mentee. And of course it can work, I'm not saying that it cannot work, but I think it is much more powerful if the mentee can select and ask the mentor proactively, because as you said just very, very right, that it is also a source of inspiration. And I think we are looking also for role models in our life, and if there is no real connect, being it a chemical connect, so chemistry also plays a role, of course, in those relationships. And also if there is no real role model, then the relationship, I think, is maybe working, but I think there is the tipping point, something is missing with regards to being really, really effective for both sides. So that would be my advice and my recommendation when it comes to the mentor-mentee relationship.
Thank you, Anita. So Jillian, you said for a long time you did not have a mentor in your career. Was there some specific point? What triggered your search for a mentor or need for your mentor?
I think, honestly, for me, it was changing companies, and it doesn't always have to be that way, but when I started my first job, and I was there for so long, I was a 21-year-old, college hire, brand new engineer. And I feel like I always, even though I grew, in those 14 years and changed jobs and became a different person, I feel like I always kind of had that hanging over my head, if you will. And, I was in, I would say, kind of a formal, not like a one-on-one mentor program, but like a college hire program, and never really got what I needed to out of it. So when I changed jobs, I made like a commitment to myself that, I was going to find myself a mentor. I was going to, project who I was today. And I think, to Anita's point, it's incredibly important to find that chemistry with someone. And if you find a mentor that, you're like, oh, I love this person, I think they're great, I'd like to work with them. I remember being very nervous, like asking the person, oh, will you be my mentor? But oftentimes, it's a compliment to the mentor you ask as well, right? They're like, oh, someone looks up to me enough, and they want me to be their mentor. So I would say that was the tipping point, was changing companies, but it was still not easy because I had to ask someone. But now that once I asked the first person, and like I said, I built kind of a group of mentors for various pieces of my career, I'm much less nervous because then I know when I get asked to mentor someone, I also take it as a compliment, right? Like it's like, oh wow, someone actually thinks I'm cool enough that they want to take advice from me and they want me to help them. So I would say if you're nervous and you're nervous to start, while my tipping point was a company change, your tipping point can just be, you don't know until you ask, and you have to just, I say this a lot, but it's the start that stops most people. So if you've got to just start, you've got to just do it. 99.9% of the time, they're going to say yes. And if the person has something going on where they can't take on the work, my guarantee is they'll find someone who can assist you.
So this is a very important point, and I specifically asked this question because I myself face that dilemma, and everybody faces like, I want this person to be my mentor, but I don't know if he or she will want to be my mentor. So the important point is to ask. It can be a yes, it can be a no, but who cares? If it's a no, then you'll find another person that you want. And if somebody says yes, then you got the mentor you wanted, right? So asking is important.
Yeah, you don't know until you ask, right?
So Anita, do you want to share the top 3 tips for the new mentors and the new mentees?
Okay. Maybe because we speak about diversity and we are here 3 ladies, but I want also to mention that a mentor can also be a man, right? I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be a lady. So that would be maybe the first thing that, as you rightly said, the initiative, of course, also needs to come from the mentee. And the mentee is responsible to take action. You cannot expect from your mentor that the mentor does the work for you. So that would be another advice. And for the mentor, I think it's really important that we dedicate time, because it doesn't help the mentee to have a mentor who is maybe a role model but struggles to find the right time to spend with the respective mentee to provide advice and to also to listen to the mentee.
Thank you. So, Jillian, what do you think is the best way to choose a mentor? And the follow-up question is, how did you decide on who would be your mentor?
I think it took me a little bit of time, right, to figure out like what my goals were. So looking at someone that maybe has a job that I aspire to get was really important to me. I think finding the right personality, so connecting with people about work, who you sort of click with chemistry-wise and who maybe you don't. And it's incredibly important to find that chemistry. So kind of a combination for me of just personality chemistry and job function were very important. And I don't think it needs to be one person, right? So like if there's someone that you like, wow, I really respect their business acumen and their leadership skills and sort of the way that they lead, I'd love for them to mentor me on that. But there's someone else like, personally me, like I really love the technical aspect of what I do, and that's where I want to focus. So, I would also like someone to kind of mentor me in order to get to that my technical career goals. And that may not be the same person as someone who helps you with your leadership skills, right? So I would say personality and function are really what I focus on, and just remembering it may not be the same people. For me, it wasn't. And I have some long-term like mentors where, we just have like continual conversations, and each time we talk, we set up a time we say, okay, next time we're gonna discuss this, and these are your action items to get to next time. And I have some that are programs, right, where it's like, okay, this is a 6-month mentorship, and this is what we do in those 6 months, and I think there's value to both of those, and they're both incredibly important career-wise. But it's not going to always be the same relationship, right? And some mentors are very regimented, and some mentors are very, let's just keep the conversation going, and you tell me what you need. So you have to find what works best for you.
So what I hear from you is it's more of how you feel, what you need, and who resonates more with you.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I have some long-term mentorships. I did a mentorship with Eugenia, and it was like six months we did. But it was like very, she told me, this is what we're going to do. You're going to read these books. Like it was very set the way that it was. And not all mentor relationships are like that. And there's a time and a place for everything for you in your career. So just know that there's no right way to do things.
So that makes us mentor sisters. Eugenia is my mentor too. So I know what you're talking about.
All right.
So Anita, you talked about coaching at some point of time. This is something that's confusing to many. I want to ensure that we get your experience and knowledge. How does coaching differentiate from mentorship? We'll get to sponsorship in a while, but right now I want to focus on coaching.
Yeah, very good question. So the term coaching is not really protected. And everyone actually can call himself or herself a coach, but not everyone has a real education as a coach combined with a certificate. So the main difference between mentoring but also between consulting and coaching is that a coach would not tell the coachee what is right or wrong. So it's not like I explain what worked for me and what I think the coachee should do. So it is a relationship where the coachee helps, where the coach helps the coachee to find his or her own way to tackle things. So it is mainly about asking the right questions, listening a lot, and applying different methods, helping the coachee to find the answers to the questions. The coachee maybe even was aware of that he had those questions. There's often a theme behind a theme. Whereas consultancy or also mentorship is much more about providing advice with regards to what I would believe would help you in this specific situation, and I provide you an advice which you can take on board or not. So it's always up to the coachee or mentor to decide, does this help for me personally in this specific situation, yes or not. So I'm a business coach as well, and what I experience is that very often the coachee is expecting a combination between consultancy and coaching, but still I believe, and it works, but still I believe it's good to understand the differences, because if I, for instance, explain to someone what helped me in my career, it might be a completely different thing for you to experience, because you might be in a completely different situation, you might have completely different personal objectives, and therefore it's so important to always listen to yourself and decide which advice is now valuable for you, and also maybe put some advices aside because maybe they are not the right ones for you.
So like Jillian mentioned during her mentorship journey, she had action items, things to follow. When you're coaching people, is that something you do with people, Anita? So when you're coaching, do you give certain action items to people? Come back, do this, and then we'll talk later, or it's only limited to advising them?
It depends. It depends on the situation. So typically, there are several topics then tackled in a coaching session, or maybe even only one. And then it is up to the coachee to start in his or her own life, being it in a business life or personal life, to test out the different things. And then In the next session, for instance, you would discuss what worked, what did not work, and then continue and find the best way for the coachee. But of course, sometimes it's also about to get specific tasks or to test very specific activities to figure out what works best. So I think it's always a combination. I would never stick to just one method only. Right?
Now let's bring one more thing to the mix: sponsorship. So if people are not confused enough, we had mentorship, we had coaching. Let's bring sponsorship too, so that it's all a mix. So what do you think is the difference between a sponsorship and mentorship?
Can you take that one?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that a sponsor is someone that goes to bat for you and advocates for you when you're not in the room. And a mentor may do that. Anita brought that up in the very beginning of this discussion, and they can certainly become sponsors, but they don't necessarily have to. And a mentor may not be in a position of power, right? You can really look up to someone and get amazing advice for them, and they may not be the person in the room when promotion conversations or move conversations are happening. And there's something wrong with that. Like if you have a mentor, or they may not even be in your company, right? Your mentors. Whereas your sponsor should be someone who advocates for you when you're not there. They're your voice. They're probably, level or levels above you as an executive and having those conversations. However, I currently have a mentor that I am mentoring with on the more technical stuff and the more technical side of my career, who I hope will become a sponsor for me and will be a sponsor for me when those conversations are happening. I haven't directly said to him, hey, will you be my sponsor? And I think that's a big difference too, because it's, as I said earlier, it's easier to go to someone and say, hey, will you be my mentor? I need some help, I love what you do, these are the things that I want to work on. It's a lot harder to say, hey, do you like me enough to advocate for me when I'm not in the room, which is something that a sponsor does. So to me, and some people may disagree, a sponsorship is earned, whereas a mentorship is almost always asked for, right? And you can certainly ask for sponsorship. It's not that you can't. But I think more often than not, from what I've seen personally, it's more earned. It's more earned by what you do in your work. You have to make sure that you are speaking, your work speaks for what you want and what you do. Your sponsor, when they become your sponsor, when you start to realize someone is sponsoring you, whether it's directly or indirectly, you should be having those conversations with your sponsor about what your aspirations are. Like my current mentor that I talked about, that I focus more on my technical growth with, I'm very clear with him about where I want to go and the job that I want, so that I'm not going to say if, I'm going to put it out there into the universe, when he sponsors me, he knows if there's someone talking about, hey, I need someone to do X, Y, Z, he knows Jillian really wants to do X, Y, Z, and she's really good, so I'm going to bring up her name.
So what I see here is you are utilizing it well to upgrade your skills to the role that you want, so that you earn your position to sponsorship. I think that's wonderful. That's the right way to do it.
You gotta have an elevator pitch for what you want to do too, because especially at events like this, where you end up in conversations with executives internally or externally, kind of ad hoc, you can, casually bring up I'm really interested in blah, blah, blah. And then it's really important for them to know that, even if they're not your formal mentor or sponsor, because they're the ones in the room that can advocate.
I will add in something here. And this is nothing against the men, but I think especially women, we find it very hard to go and say, hey, I'm capable of this and I want this. So you don't need to be casual. You can really, it's your right. You can go up to somebody and say, hey, I can do this. And I can do this much better. How about you give me a chance to do this? Sometimes all it takes is to say it, and we should definitely say it. And we can learn from all our, men who work alongside us. They do it beautifully. I see it all the time. So, that's something that I'm learning to do these days. If I feel something, I walk up to somebody and say, hey, I think I can do it. Let me take a stab at that. And it works. So I would highly recommend that.
I would say too, from a mentorship and sponsorship perspective, I talked about, you can have one mentor who focuses on maybe more technical, one leadership, management, but also it's incredibly important to make sure that you have not only diversity of skill set in your mentors and sponsors, but diversity of people. So people that are earlier career, later career, men, women, different backgrounds, different nationalities, because that's going to really help you ensure that you are getting in front of all different audiences.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jillian. Anita, do you want to add something for the sponsorship part?
Not really, but I completely echo what you said, that especially ladies are often too shy. And I have been that when I was young as well. So we expect that our achievements are seen. We expect this. But if we don't speak up for ourselves, no one will do it for us typically, with a very few exceptions, and that's normal. So we need to speak up for ourselves. We need to articulate what we want to achieve in our business lives, and then of course follow up on that, and of course also deliver. Delivering is also important.
I think I need to do an Art of the Subtle Brag workshop, Eugene. Sounds like that's what everyone needs. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jillian and Anita. That was very nice. I see one hand go up. Rudolph, you have a question there.
Yeah, I have a question.
You have a mic so that we save some energy for you.
Right, cool. I've got a big one. I could probably shout it, but my wife is a talented video game developer. And when she published she made her first video game on her own while she was pregnant. She had lots of difficulty kind of figuring out how to promote it, how to promote herself, and all the stuff that you figure out when you have a mentor. I spoke to her about getting a mentor. She was quite resistant to the idea. Eventually, after a lot of nagging, she did a one-on-one session with a video game executive. But she's still really reluctant to go and find a mentor and do it. And I'm reluctant to keep pushing it because I don't think that that's the best way to get somebody to do something, because it actually just entrenches them in the position against. What's the best way of encouraging the women in our lives to find mentors without being like pushy about it and like highlighting the positive benefits, or is it somebody else talking like what's
So Rudolph, I hope this session is being recorded. I hope that you can share these success stories with her. I never even thought that I should write a LinkedIn post. I was doing everything that I'm doing today, and I was in a speaker session earlier, and somebody walked up to me and said, "Hey, I'm a fan." I was like, "Really? Is it even possible?" But the big thing is, unless you realize, you have to look at success stories. Make her watch Eugenia's LinkedIn posts. Let her know the success stories. Bring her to some women forums. I think she needs to. You are bringing her a glass of water, but she needs to be thirsty to drink that water.
I would say too, to add to that, if she's not ready for a mentor, like a one-on-one, because it's hard, like I said, to ask someone, maybe like a networking circle where she can get to know like a group of people, right? Whether it's women, whether it's men, whatever combination. And maybe from there she sees someone she connects with one-on-one and asks for mentorship, but maybe not. But at least if she's in a circle, it's a starting point.
Yeah, and to just add everything to everything that was said already, just 1 hour with a good coach, G+, so someone maybe she even knows from her network, can change it significantly. So I speak from my own experience when I had a coach, to just spend 1 hour, and then very often the coach leaves the session and says, "Oh, now I know what I need to do and what I want to do." So it really unlocks energy and helps to understand what a person wants to do by herself. And I'm fully with you. Pushing very often doesn't really help.
So maybe you need to you ignite the thirst, then the water will really seem like a good option.
Love the question. Great job. All right.
I'm so happy you're supporting your wife like that, root of respect. Any other questions? So with that, we will conclude the panel, but Jillian has a presentation which will give more insights into mentorship and the program that we are launching. Over to you, Jillian. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm really excited. We're going to be making a big announcement here about something that the TIP Diversity Committee is launching. But I want to share that, you know, I'm a big believer in inclusion, DE&I, and I feel like if we're not all having the conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion, even if it's not your job, we're all not doing our jobs. You can't leave all the conversations up to the people whose job titles include inclusion. So by all of us being in this room, it's incredibly important, and you're really saying like, hey, I'm here for upskilling, I'm here for inclusion, and I think that's amazing. So we're going to talk a little bit about mentorship and sponsorship today. It'll be a very brief presentation, but I want to start out by touching on your personal board of directors. And these are some of the things that we talked about, and we can send this, I assume we send the slides out or something after, but we talked a little bit about the mentor and the sponsor in here, right, the advocate. But there's a lot of other people in your personal board of directors. And today we're going to focus on the mentor, but I want you to think of yourself as the CEO of your own company and your own career as you advance it. So we'll start out with the advocate, which is the sponsor, someone who can help you accelerate your career, someone who can put you in front of the right people, put forth opportunities for you, etc. The mentor, someone who provides you with coaching on certain elements of your role and what you want to do. Your peer, also extremely important, someone that you can trust and lean on when you need some help. Find someone on your team that you can always say like, hey, I just need a second set of eyes on this, right? Or I really need some help with figuring out how to write this blog or something like that, but incredibly important. The connector, someone who can introduce you to mentors and sponsors, right? Someone who can help you create this board of director. And sometimes these roles are going to overlap, like we talked about a little. Your voice of reason, someone who knows you and can provide you with honest opinion. It's always important to have cheerleaders, but it's also important to have someone who sometimes says, hey, like maybe that's not the right way to go, or maybe you should think about this. And sometimes your voice of reason, in my case, is currently my boss. He's a great voice of reason for me, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's someone else. It could also be your mentor. And an aspiration, right? Someone who you aspire to be, someone who you're like, oh, they're so amazing. Could be your mentor, could be your peer. Some of these roles overlap. But I want you to think about really having this personal board of directors, and as you look at this, you know, think about some names or write down some names of people that you say, okay, yeah, these are my personal board of directors, or these are where I have some gaps. Today, like I said, I'm going to address the mentor, but this is also the opportunity for you to look at this board and say, hey, where can I really fill in the gaps to make sure that my board is full? Because you're going to be able to advance your career when your board is fully full. Fully full. Okay, so what is the role of a mentor? Something we already talked about a little bit, right? Help develop your skills, whatever those skills may be. Those may be career skills, technical skills, management skills. Shares knowledge with you. They should be a giving person. They shouldn't be someone who's like gatekeeping things. If your mentor is gatekeeping, you probably don't have the right mentor. They should be sharing with you openly. They should be wanting you to be successful. They should be helping you network, right? So if you say like, hey, I'm really interested in blah, blah, blah. If they know someone that does blah, 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 they can introduce you to that person, make introductions, give you career advice. So say, you know, if you're talking about like how you want to do X, Y, Z, they can help give you advice in order to get to X, Y, Z, and help you set the goals to get there. Incredibly important too with setting goals is it's always great to aspire, but you have to be realistic with yourself. So understanding if you want to be a CEO of a Fortune 50 company, what is it really going to take to get there? Those are amazing goals, but you've got to do the work. So not only setting the goals, but ensuring that you can get there as well and that you're doing the work to do that. What is the role of a mentee? So it's not your job as the mentee to just sit back and relax, right? So first of all, you have to initiate the relationship. Most people are not going to come to you and say, hey, I'd love to be your mentor. Maybe that'll happen. That's never happened to me, but it can happen. You have to drive the relationship. You have to set forth what you're looking for out of it and really plan your own development as well. You can't expect your mentor to do that for you. Take action. So doing things to get to your goals, right? Setting up the meetings with your mentor to say, okay, this day we're going to do this, by this day we're going to do this, by this date you're going to do this. Making sure that you're action-oriented. Your mentor is already giving you their time to help you. You've got to make sure that you're taking the actions to get where you need to be. And then the last two are be willing to learn and keep an open mind, which are incredibly important. If you're not coachable, mentorable, the relationship's going to go nowhere. You've got to make sure that you keep an open mind and you are willing to do the work and take advice if things aren't going the way that you expected them to go. Why not? And sometimes, yes, bad stuff happens, but sometimes you need to take ownership and understand that you're the one that's responsible for making sure that you see success in your career as well. So, we are very excited that we are going to be launching the Telecom Infra Project mentor program. So, mentors and mentees are going to be matched via a form. The deadline is November 30th, and you don't have to be in this room or even at Fyuz to participate. So you can share this with all of your colleagues and friends at home. The focus will be on people in the telecom industry, but we can certainly share outside. And we will start the program in early 2024. This is the QR code for the form, so you can take a picture of that, send it back home. But it's going to be a great program. We're very excited about it. We know that it's hard to reach out and say, like, hey, will you be my mentor? We also know it's hard to find people. Maybe you haven't networked enough, and it's incredibly important that we make sure that people are matched to this program. So we will be providing you with tools in order to build the relationship between mentor and mentee, and we'll be doing the matching. So through this form, you can sign up to be a mentor or a mentee, or better yet, both. But be sure to share the word about this is what we're doing, and we're going to be really excited, hopefully, when this program is massive next year. And we'll be announcing one more thing here at this summit today. So be sure to stick around till the end, but it will help the mentor-mentees build relationships together. So thank you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Bear with me. I know it's the last session and you're all mostly tired, but we're going to have a good announcement and a good panel. I would like to invite Leah Jultinawati, sorry for that, and Renuka is not here yet. She's coming, so probably someone will interrupt and join us at stage. Okay, so for this last panel, First, let me introduce myself. I'm Ana Armas. I'm a Telco Director for Entity Data. I'm based in Mexico. I'm not Mexican. So that's to start talking about diversity and inclusion at our company. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Lia Yudinawati. I come from Indonesia. I'm a Director Strategic Partnership and International Office from Telecom University. I'm also a lecturer and coordinator for TIP Community Lab in Indonesia.
Thank you, Lia. So we have spent the last 3 days talking about how to diversify the network and how to get rid of the vendor lock-in, which is a very good metaphor for what's going to happen here. We're gonna try to. We actually are going to. Renuka is here. Welcome. So I'm gonna let you. Actually, Renuka has been very busy at the summit, and she was in another conference. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Renuka, I'm part of Meta. I work in the network infrastructure team. Sorry for joining late. We were having a panel, and Rudolph just told me that that panel is one of the exceptional one where there were all women and only one man. So I think we tipped the balance there. So that was good.
Thank you. Welcome, Renuka. So I was saying that this is like the first conversation that we are going to have in a series of conversations that I will later introduce to all of you. And basically what we wanted to do here is not only talk about what we all know and we are all aware of, which is the lack of female representation in corporations, but also on how what we have been doing. Because, for example, earlier I listened to someone saying, okay, so let's stop talking about open networks and let's stop talking about the benefits we are getting out of it. The same needs to happen in this type of conversations, right? We know there is a problem, and we know there a situation that we need to tackle. And so this is perfect because we have both sides. We have the university, where is the students is the main thing that we need to tackle on. And then we have corporations, big corporations like Meta, and I can share my own experience on entity data. And this is like the flow we want to activate and keep going. So I'm gonna start with a question for you. I want to understand, Leah, if you can share with us how at the university level you are supporting the diversity on the technical careers, and especially, of course, in telecom.
Okay, so maybe in Indonesian cases, because Indonesia is an island country, we have more than 17,000 islands. So I think diversity is not about the gender things. Is it also about the ethnic group? Because we have more than 1,000 ethnic group in Indonesia, and also 700 language. So when we're talking about diversity, how we can give a better education for all the people in Indonesia. And many people still also living in the rural areas. So maybe it's quite difficult for them to get a better and good education. So when we're talking about the telecommunication and technology industry, our university is focusing in telecommunication and also in technology, because we are subsidiaries from telecom industry in Indonesia. And we do understand that when we're talking about the technology or telecommunication industry, it's not about the engineering things, but about the management, about communication also. So we're not focusing only in telecommunication, but also about how the leadership things in management, and then also about field in the creative industry. So we have students, more than 30,000 students from 7 schools, and we have working closely with the ministry of, with the government and also with the industry about the gaps in the industry. Most of the time that because most the student also in our campus mostly is the male. So that's why the gap between the female and male is quite wider time to time. So, and also several data mentioned that the C-level and the board director female is only 50% in Indonesia. And the researcher, like me, is only 3 from 10 if we compare it to the male. So after that, we working and discuss with the industry. We do it industrial gathering. What we can do best. So there is several things we do that with the Ministry of Industry we do it that we can prepare the young talent. It start in the beginning. So we're working with the MNOs. Some of the Telecom companies give the scholarship. This is an end-to-end scholarship. So they choose the best talent, especially for the diversity things. So this is something like assessment every semester. And then after they graduate, they can become new employees in this company. So this model is right now is copying with other industry. So we can minimize the gap which industry needs. Maybe some industry want to minimize the gap of the gender, but maybe in other companies is want to minimize about the ethnic group problem. So what we do right now in campus is not about how we deliver about the academic things, but how we collaborate with the industry to fulfill the gap in the industry. So the learning is not in the class right now, but the learning program is something we added with the certification, with the training, and this is a customized. It depends on what the student needs. And this new kind of things will be like their maybe this will be best for the standard upskilling the skill set when they apply to the companies.
That's good to hear. Thank you, Leah. And Reka, from your point of view, how are companies or Meta specifically relying on the universities or on the educational system to get more diverse ecosystem inside?
That's a great question, and I like how you kind of explained it on how you started at the beginning when the children are young and so on. And I also agree with that point of it's not only about diversity on the gender point of view, but also about ethnicity and so on. And so companies like Meta can play a big role here, and we do understand that part. In fact, I have been actively participating in our internal effort on DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the way we started at the beginning is to create awareness at the university and high school level. So we have regular programs where we go and talk about the company, the work, the mission at the high schools and at the universities. The other part we do is we regularly have workshops where we bring in the students to the campus. We show them how the work is done, what it involves when you start in the corporate world, and how can you kind of create interest in various areas. It doesn't have to be engineering only. There could be multiple different functions there. And so we have seen that excites or motivates the students a lot. And then that carries over in the university phase of it, where we do have the internship programs, and those programs are tailored towards some of those diverse kind of sections as well. So it's an internship program generally open, but there is also a specialized internship program, say, geared towards a diverse community and so on. So those are the ways that we kind of start early on. And of course, our recruiting team takes a great care of how do we make sure that we have enough candidates. And again, I'm talking about solutions, but I totally understand that the problem is still not completely solved. There is a lot of work to be done yet, and that's ongoing. I think each one of us have to play a part. But the team is good. Yes, I should also mention, so the way we run our DEI program, it goes in 3 phases. The first one starts with find, where you are looking for the right talent and bringing it in. And then the second phase goes into what we call key. So the students go through universities, they get the job, they come in, but are they ready for the corporate world? Are they getting the right coaching, mentorship, and so on? So that's what happens in the key phase, so that they don't give up and they don't kind of not sustain there. So that's the second phase of it. And then the third phase we call it the grow phase. So how do we make sure that these new joinees are growing through the corporate ladder? And how can we again do the right necessity of the steps there? Again, involves mentoring, involves coaching, a lot of other programs such as sponsorship and so on. So there is a great way of kind of building a mechanism where we also measure the progress through this system every year, and some of the results are, I think, publicly published. I'm not a formal representative talking about it, but I can definitely see that that kind of effort is pretty helpful within the company, and a lot of us as part of our day-to-day job also take kind of pride in participating and mentoring new joinees and so on, whatever we can do to contribute to that process.
That's good, thank you. We were discussing earlier that how this change of the industry itself from a pure network industry to more software-oriented company or industry will hopefully help be more inclusive, because it's going to be softer for people to join. So have you seen so far in the latest year any change on that trend, being more open to software, more young people joining an enterprise, but also cohabiting with oldest people and more women joining the workforce? Can you take that?
Yeah, definitely. So for Meta, the funny part that I always say is when I joined Meta a few years back, the average age on our campus was very, very young. I felt like I'm pretty old, and so that tells that yes, the young generation is excited about joining new type of companies and getting into software, learning more on that ladder, and so that has been quite, I would say, a good combination or mix of young talent and also the experienced talent. And it helps because the groups are a combination again of that type of diversity, and so it helps to get different perspectives, different viewpoints. And we have what we call as a boot camp, especially again geared towards the new talent. And that boot camp is to help them understand what all different work areas are there within the companies. And I think that's a similar effort that I have seen in other industries as well. And that's very important because that's the initial phase where they get to know what the work is like, what do I have interest more in versus the whole kind of menu card that the boot camp shows them in the first few weeks. So that has been helpful.
Good to hear. So, Leah, can you tell us a little bit of how the university and you mentioned that you work very close to the government and the public institutions. Can you share a little bit more on how do you promote these type of programs you have, and how do you, for example, we were hearing earlier a question about how do I get my to enter a mentorship program? How do I tell her that it exists? So how do you think that you are being successful in communicating these type of programs?
Okay, so Renuka mentioned that the gap between her and new young talent is quite wide. But you can imagine between me and my student, every year I get a new student, and then the gap is quite wider. And how they learn also is very different. If we go back to 10 years in the past, how our student learning and now student now learning, they can learn by themselves, just using the gadget. So the first thing when I talk to the partners, like in the industry partners and also with the governments, it's not only about the mentorship for the student, but also for the lecturers. So like an exchange program, we do it for the lecturers. So the lecturers go to the industry for 3 months. So they're learning about what's going on in the industry right now. And then they go back again to the university and transfer it to the student. We arrange the curriculums and then put it the right things for the learning right now. So the student can choose which subject they want. It's not they have to put it any subject in the one faculties, but they can choose anything they like. We also propose something like we call it WRAP, is Work Ready Program, because this program is combined and making together with the industry. So the student can choose which one they like. They can choose internship. If they don't like it, do internship, they can choose it, the researchship, or maybe they can choose to become entrepreneurship. So it depends on the student. So they also can become more confident. So how we deliver like this, because the Ministry of Education also support us to deliver a new way of education. And also the Ministry of Education in Indonesia knows about the changing in industry and a new technology. So that's why they give a digital talent scholarship, we call it. They give the scholarship for the student, and they reach amount until $300,000 US for the student to learning about the new skill that the industry need.
Good. So I wanna maybe start wrapping up by understanding. I mean, this is something. This is a conversation that we need to keep having, but also we need to start not showing results, but getting some results. I mean, we need to start understanding what the changes are, and if the methodologies we are following are actually successful, right? So what would both of you, what would you think it's the next best action we should follow, either in universities or in the corporate world, to actually help people be less the fear to, as you mentioned before, women and diversity groups are very good at studying, but then, the statistic fails as they grow, because either they have some other things to do, they start being afraid to continue, and so on. So what would you say is like the next best action any of the fields should follow up to continue on the growth?
Okay, so because you mentioned about that, I want to share it that the demand from the industry for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math is very high. And the female and also the diversity, the minority student to join and prospective student to join STEM is very high. But after they graduate and then they choose other field, the workforce is decreases sharply. So that's why this is not only pick up a homework for the academia, for the university. I think this is a national, should be the national program. So we should go working together with the government, and also have to working together with the industry to give the better solution. One thing also mentioned about the minority of the female leaders. So in our campus we have the program is recognition, past learner recognition. We give this program to the leaders, especially for the women leaders who not get any chance to continue their study. So with the experience, 20 years experience in the industry, is the same with 3 or 2 years in the degrees. So they don't have to continue the study, but we will give them the degrees for them because of their experience. This will be fulfilled and fulfill the gap about the female leaders. And also with some companies, the multinational companies, we do it something like one-day CEOs. This is also help the student to have confidence to working in the multinational companies. For the female student also have the confidence how they dealing with other genders and how they more confident to become a leader, because mentorship and also mirroring how someone maybe do the communication, how someone do something like leadership in the meeting or something. This is quite important for the young talent to copy and to mirroring and to become their maybe a wider and bigger vision and motivate better for them in the future.
Soft skills, right?
Yes.
Soft skills. How would you?
Yeah, so that I kind of relate to what you're explaining here. So I would say one thing that all the companies can do is to give as much importance to this part. I know that the whole employee set is always busy with their own career, their own work day to day, but the more the management and the whole top down gives importance to this part, the better it flows through. And we have seen it with that success when we make it a company-wide objective, when we kind of drive it through each of the parts of the company, we see more of a reflection of the results too. And then an example that I can give of what one thing we can do, okay, maybe two. So the first one is, of course, within TIP, the diversity community that we have. So the companies working in silos is not enough. Having a platform like here is important. You bring in different views, share ideas, and kind of cross-pollinate that kind of behavior within organizations. So that's great. That's happening here. And then I would go back to a practical example. So what we did last year was a new program where we brought in interns who are almost ready to graduate from the college and going to enter the workforce. And we matched each one of them with one of the employees within. And then we worked very closely with them for 3 months of their internship, which is usually a 6 months program. And for that 6 months, 50% of the time, the coach is going step by step with them in terms of what job functions are of interest. How do you then pick one of them as your kind of tried out for the next 3 months? And then as they were doing that, they were given a full circle of support in terms of acting as if you are in that role and you are doing the work alongside the team that you are part of for that particular period. And then you are learning through that actual execution of it. And we thought that they appreciated it so much that it influenced how they then applied for the different jobs. So start at the internship, maybe they were not aware of multiple of those job functions, and at the end of it, they were excited about putting their resume for different functions which they were not aware of before. So I think that kind of a practical solution might be helpful just beyond doing a basic, say, coaching or recruiting effort.
That's good. And that's the kind of things I think we need to start talking about, on what we are actually doing and what the results of that those actions are, because it shows that some actions might be better than others, but the impact that they are doing is what we need to start replicating all over. So I think we can wrap up. It has been very short conversations, but I think it's very late, and I would like to thank the team not only for all the event, but for creating these spaces. I think with the mentorship program and what I'm about to announce now, I think we can start planning for the next year to have some results and some very positive impact to show you. So I would like to thank you both for interesting conversation. And now, so Okay. So now I'm going to announce another action that we are taking supported by the team in the diversity committee, and we are going to talk about it. As I was mentioning before, I think it is important that we actually talk about what we are doing, not only we as a community, but what is going on in the industry and what is going to be measured and impacting the diversity ecosystem. So we're going to have a diversity talk series. It's going to be on quarterly base, and it's going to be because we are going to discuss innovation, right? This is what our industry runs on, innovation. And there is no other way to ignite innovation than by including some people with different backgrounds, different ideas, different point of view, and different experiences. So we're gonna try to put together a series of talks. They're gonna be quarterly. They're gonna start soon this year. We expect that announcement. And how can you support this? Well, not only joining us on the conversation, but spreading the word. I mean, be sure that once you receive the information, try to get that information to as many as contact you can, and also give us feedback. I mean, feedback is very important. Give us feedback on what are the topics you expect us to talk about. If there is something you can support, somehow you can support these talks, that would be great. If you want to talk, if you want to be included, please reach out. So please register. This is the code. I think we are going to put this out there on LinkedIn and other channels, so you can register there and expect more news. Probably we're gonna have to put some. No, probably. We are going to be including more topics than just gender gap. We're going to talk about other things, and especially on how the impact is actually being put out there. Okay? So that will be all, I think. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for joining the event. Enjoy.